What if the food sitting on your plate right now has a story you have never been told? What if the state you drive through on your way somewhere else, the one with the cornfields and the cloud-gray skies, quietly changed the way the world eats? What if the heartland was not just the middle of the map, but the middle of everything? The answer is Ohio. 40 million people live within a day's drive of Columbus. This state built the railroads, fed the factories, and invented some of the most beloved foods on earth, and almost nobody knows it. If you're the kind of person who thinks food is just fuel, this channel will ruin you. Welcome to Dish Atlas. Hit subscribe before we are done because you will want more of this. Food number 1, Lifesavers candy. That little ring of hard candy, the one that has been rattling around the bottom of your grandmother's purse since 1987, was born in a chocolate factory in Cleveland, Ohio, in 1912. Clarence Crane, a chocolate maker, was frustrated that his chocolates melted in the summer heat. He needed a candy that could survive shipping. So he pivoted, bought a pill-making machine, and punched a hole in the center to make the candy feel new and distinctive. He called it Lifesavers, and the name was pure branding genius. The shape matched the life preservers hanging on the side of every Great Lakes passenger ship. Here is the wild part. Crane sold the rights for just $2,900, roughly $90,000 today, to a New York businessman who turned it into one of the most recognized candy brands in American history. Crane walked away from a fortune he had no idea he was sitting on. Lifesavers is a story about invention, terrible timing, and the brutal math of knowing what you have before it is too late. Not every great invention comes from a boardroom. Some come from a teenager with nothing to lose. Food number 2, the banana split. 3 scoops of ice cream, a sliced banana, 3 toppings, whipped cream, crushed nuts, and a cherry. It sounds like a recipe for pure happiness, because it is. In 1904, in the small Ohio town of Latrobe. In Wilmington, Ohio. This is where the story gets messy. Because those 2 towns have been brawling over this dessert for over a century. But the most documented claim comes from David Strickler, a 23-year-old apprentice pharmacist in Latrobe, Pennsylvania. Actually, the Ohio challenger is Ernest Hazard of Wilmington, Ohio, who created his version in 1907 to attract Wilmington College students to his restaurant during a slow winter. Wilmington still holds an annual Banana Split Festival every June. The town did not just make a dessert. They made a civic identity out of it. That is the power of food. It does not just feed communities. It becomes communities. Whatever the true origin, Ohio wears the crown proudly. And every hot fudge drizzle owes something to the Buckeye State. From something sweet to something that built an empire on simplicity. Food number 3, Wendy's hamburgers, the square patty, the frosty. The famous, "Where is the beef?" The entire cultural DNA of Wendy's was born on November 15, 1969, when Dave Thomas opened his first restaurant on Broad Street in Columbus, Ohio. Thomas was a high school dropout who had worked under Colonel Sanders at KFC. He left that world with one obsession: make the hamburger fresh, never frozen. His square patties were not a gimmick. They were a statement. They hung over the edges of the bun on purpose, so you could see the beef. He wanted customers to know exactly what they were getting. Thomas named the restaurant after his 8-year-old daughter, Melinda Lou, who went by the nickname Wendy. It is one of the most personal brand origins in fast food history, a father naming a global company after his little girl. By 2024, Wendy's had nearly 7,000 locations worldwide. It all started with one man's conviction that fresh was better on a single Columbus street corner. But Ohio's food legacy does not belong only to entrepreneurs. Sometimes the most powerful inventions come from industrial necessity. Food number 4, Cracker Jack. Caramel-coated popcorn and peanuts in a wax-coated box with a toy surprise inside. It is one of the most American foods ever made, and it has Ohio roots deeper than most people realize. Frederick William Ruckheim emigrated from Germany and eventually landed in Chicago, but it was his brother Louis, working from a base in the Midwest supply chain that ran through Ohio, who perfected the molasses and popcorn coating formula in the 1890s. The name came from a salesman who tasted it and exclaimed, "That is a Cracker Jack," slang for excellent at the time. In 1908, Jack Norworth wrote, "Take me out to the ball game," and suddenly the line, "Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jack," embedded this snack permanently into the American pastime. Cracker Jack did not just become a food, it became a lyric, a ritual. A 90-year-old man in the bleachers still singing the same song. The toy inside the box was a master stroke of marketing psychology. It turned a snack into an event. From the ballpark to the breakfast table, because Ohio did not just feed America's leisure time, it fed its mornings too. Food number 5, Skyline Chili. Spaghetti, chili, a mountain of finely shredded cheddar. If you have never had Cincinnati-style chili, your first encounter will either confuse you completely or convert you for life. There is no middle ground. The recipe was created in 1949 by Macedonian immigrant brothers Tom and John Kiradziev, who owned a restaurant called Empress Chili near a burlesque theater in Cincinnati. Their chili was built on a spice blend drawn from Mediterranean cuisine: cinnamon, allspice, cloves, and chocolate layered over spaghetti noodles. Skyline Chili, the chain that made the style famous nationwide, was founded by Nicholas Lambrinides in 1949 as well. Here is what most people do not know. This chili was never meant to taste like Texas chili. It was a completely different culinary tradition, Balkan and Greek cooking filtered through the Ohio immigrant experience and reinvented as something entirely new. Cincinnati chili is what happens when an immigrant does not try to cook what they left behind. They cook where they have arrived. Some foods define a region, others define a feeling. This next one defined childhood for a generation of Americans. Food number 6, Bob Evans sausage. Before Bob Evans became a name printed on freezer boxes, restaurant signs, and breakfast menus across America, it was just one man standing in a farmhouse kitchen in Rio Grande, Ohio, trying to make sausage good enough that people would come back for it. Not fancy, not over-engineered, just pork, seasoning, patience, and a Midwestern belief that if you do something honestly, people can taste it. Bob Evans was running a small diner near U.S. Route 35, serving meals to truck drivers and travelers moving through southern Ohio. The food was simple, but the sausage was different. It had that rich, sage-heavy flavor, the kind that filled a room before it ever hit the plate. Customers started asking where they could buy it. Then, they started asking to take it home. And that is when Evans realized he was not just serving breakfast. He was sitting on a brand. He began making sausage on his farm, packing it into 1-pound bags, and selling it to people who wanted that same farmhouse flavor in their own kitchens. From there, the business grew, but the story never lost its roots. The farm in Rio Grande became more than a production site. It became the symbol of everything the company wanted to represent. Rural America, home cooking, and breakfast that felt like somebody's grandmother had a hand in it. What makes Bob Evans sausage important is not that it was the first sausage. It was not. The magic was that it turned a local farm recipe into a national idea of comfort. For millions of families, that smell in the skillet meant Sunday morning, cold windows, hot coffee, and everyone slowly gathering around the table. I did not just invent a product here, it bottled a feeling. And from the smell of breakfast sausage, we moved to the crunch that changed the snack aisle forever. Food number 7, Ballreich's potato chips. Now, potato chips were not born in Ohio. The usual story takes us back to Saratoga Springs, New York in the 1800s. But if we are talking about the chips that Ohio can truly claim, then we need to talk about Ballreich's, a name that may not be as nationally loud as Lay's, but in northern Ohio, it is practically sacred. Ballreich's was founded in 1920 in Tiffin, Ohio, by Fred and Ethel Ballreich. At the time, potato chips were still a small batch snack, often made by hand, sold locally, and eaten fresh. This was not the age of giant supermarket aisles and neon bags. This was the era of family businesses, tin containers, delivery routes, and customers who knew exactly which local chipmaker they trusted. The Ballreich family built their reputation on a style called marceled chips, named after the wavy hairstyle that was popular at the time. Those ridges were not just decoration. They made the chip sturdier, crunchier, and better at holding seasoning. Every bite had texture. Every bag felt handmade, even as the business grew. And that is the part people miss. America's food history is not only built by the brands that became the biggest. It is also built by the regional companies that taught entire communities what a food should taste like. For generations of Ohioans, a potato chip was not just thin, salty, and crisp. It had waves. It had weight. It had that Ballreich's snap. These chips showed how Ohio helped define the regional snack culture of the Midwest. Not with a billion-dollar ad campaign, not with a cartoon mascot, but with a family name, a factory in Tiffin, and a flavor people refuse to forget. Because sometimes the foods that matter most are not the ones everybody knows. They are the ones a hometown refuses to let go. And speaking of foods that belong completely to Ohio, nothing says Buckeye State like the next one. Food number 8, Buckeye candy. If Ohio had an edible flag, it might be the Buckeye. A smooth peanut butter ball dipped in chocolate, but not all the way. That little circle of peanut butter left showing at the top makes it look like the nut from the Ohio Buckeye tree, and once you see the resemblance, you cannot unsee it. This is not some corporate candy invented in a laboratory. Buckeyes came from home kitchens, church basements, school fundraisers, football parties, and holiday trays wrapped in plastic and carried into family gatherings. They are the kind of food that spreads not because a company pushes it, but because people love making it for other people. The recipe is almost suspiciously simple. Peanut butter, powdered sugar, butter, maybe a little vanilla, rolled into balls and dipped in melted chocolate. But the simplicity is the point. Buckeyes do not need complexity. They work because they hit something deep and familiar. Sweet, salty, creamy, chocolatey, and just messy enough to feel homemade. The candy became especially tied to Ohio State culture. On game days, Buckeyes are not just dessert. They are a ritual. They sit beside trays of wings, chili, and chips, while people in scarlet and gray yell at televisions like the entire fate of civilization depends on third down. But the beauty of Buckeye candy is that nobody owns it. There is no single official creator, no glossy origin myth, no perfect date stamped in history. It belongs to families. It belongs to grandmothers who never measured anything. It belongs to kids licking chocolate off their fingers. It belongs to Ohioans who move away and still make them every December because something about the taste pulls them home. That is what makes it powerful. Buckeye candy is not famous because it conquered America. It is famous because it never stopped belonging to Ohio. But not every Ohio food story is sweet. Some are spicy, smoky, and served on a bun in a restaurant that became a television legend. Food number 9, Tony Packo's Hungarian hot dog. The hot dog is one of those foods that every city tries to claim in its own way. Chicago has its loaded garden-on-a-bun version. New York has the street cart classic. Detroit has the Coney dog. But Toledo, Ohio has Tony Packo's. Tony Packo was the son of Hungarian immigrants, and in 1932, during the Great Depression, he opened a small restaurant on the east side of Toledo. Money was tight. People needed food that was filling, affordable, and full of flavor. Packo's answer was not a standard American hot dog. It was a Hungarian-style sausage, seasoned with paprika and spices, placed in a bun then covered with chili sauce and mustard. It was bold. It was different. And in Toledo, it became an institution. But the story took a turn that no marketing team could have planned. On the television show M.A.S.H., the character Corporal Max Klinger, played by Toledo native Jamie Farr, kept mentioning Tony Packo's. Suddenly, a local Ohio restaurant was being name-dropped in living rooms across America. People who had never been to Toledo began hearing about this place as if it were a myth. Then came the signed buns. Celebrities visiting Tony Packo's began signing hot dog buns, which the restaurant preserved and displayed. Not photographs, not plates, actual buns. It sounds ridiculous, and that is exactly why it worked. The walls became a museum of pop culture, local pride, and food obsession. Tony Packo's did not invent the hot dog, but it invented one of America's most unforgettable hot dog experiences. It proved that food does not need to be elegant to become iconic. Sometimes it just needs a strong flavor, a good story, and a hometown that treats it like treasure. And now we arrive at the final food, the one that may be the most surprising of all because it is sitting in millions of pantries right now. Food number 10, Jif peanut butter. Peanut butter feels so ordinary that we forget it had to become ordinary. Someone had to take peanuts, grind them into a smooth, spreadable food, stabilize it, package it, advertise it, and convince American families that it belonged in every kitchen cabinet. Ohio played a massive role in that transformation. Jif was introduced in 1958 by Procter & Gamble, the Cincinnati-based company that already understood American households better than almost anyone. This was not just another peanut butter. Jif was designed to be smoother, sweeter, more consistent, and more appealing to families who wanted a product they could trust every time they opened the jar. Then came one of the most famous food slogans in advertising history. Choosy moms choose Jif. That line worked because it did more than sell peanut butter. It sold reassurance. It told parents that choosing a brand was an act of care. It turned a sandwich ingredient into a symbol of family judgment, lunchbox love, and kitchen reliability. And Ohio's peanut butter story does not stop there. The J.M. Smucker Company, founded in Orrville, Ohio, later became the owner of Jif, connecting two major Ohio food legacies, an old fruit preserve company and one of America's most dominant peanut butter brands. Smucker's began with apple butter, the kind of product that feels like it belongs in a farmhouse pantry. Decades later, it was helping carry peanut butter into the center of American food culture. Think about that for a second. The peanut butter and jelly sandwich, one of the most iconic American foods ever assembled, has Ohio fingerprints all over it. Smucker's on one side, Jif on the other. A school lunch classic built, in part, by companies rooted in the same state. That is Ohio's food story in miniature. It does not always demand credit. It just shows up everywhere. So what do we do with a state like this? A state people often drive through without stopping. A state that rarely appears on the glamorous food lists. A state that gets overshadowed by New York pizza, Texas barbecue, Louisiana gumbo, and California everything. We give it credit. Because Ohio's food legacy is not about one famous dish. It is about range. Candy from Cleveland, burgers from Columbus, chili from Cincinnati, sausage from Rio Grande, chips from Tiffin, peanut butter from Cincinnati and Orrville, hot dogs from Toledo, Buckeyes from home kitchens all over the state. This is not accidental. Ohio sits at the crossroads of America. Farms, factories, railroads, immigrant neighborhoods, college towns, truck stops, diners, and family kitchens. That mix created foods that were practical, affordable, portable, comforting, and easy to love. Ohio did not just feed people. It fed working people, traveling people, students, factory workers, families, football fans, kids with lunchboxes, drivers on long highways, people who wanted something good without needing it to be fancy. And maybe that is why Ohio does not get enough credit. Its food inventions became so familiar that they disappeared into everyday life. They became the things we take for granted. But the next time you unwrap a piece of candy, dip a spoon into peanut butter, bite into a Buckeye, grab a bag of chips, or sit down to a plate of chili over spaghetti, remember this. Some of America's most beloved foods did not come from the places with the loudest reputations. They came from Ohio. If this video changed the way you see the Buckeye State, hit that like button. Subscribe to Dish Atlas for more food histories hiding in plain sight. And tell me in the comments which Ohio food shocked you the most, because I guarantee at least one of them has been sitting in your kitchen this whole time.